and taking time to help us with this session. So, guys, we are here to talk about stress and mental health. Stress per se is a normal thing. All of us feel that stress when we have some negative environment created or something. But then after that, we do come out of it and we go on as business as usual. But when stress is frequent, when stress becomes a frequent companion, at that time it becomes dangerous. There is a possibility, in itself, stress is not a disease or an illness, but it causes mental illness, which is very difficult. There's a social stigma, then there is the affordability and the availability of quality treatment, etc. are all quite not reachable for everyone. So hence it's fundamental for us to understand how we manage our stress levels, how we keep ourselves motivated all the time, how we have those stress busters, small little stress busters in our life, which will help us to overcome the stress situations that come out of it. So we have Kapil Gupta from Solh Wellness here. Solh is a wellness platform, and they help. It's a wellness platform which which provides support to people who are undergoing situations of mental illness or stress or substance abuse or anything like that. So I let Kapil introduce himself and his team and talk to us about how we can manage our day-to-day anxiety levels, how we can manage our day-to-day stress levels and be a happy working family. Over to you, Kapil.
Thank you so much for that, Aparna. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Today we are here to take away all your stress. We all know that's not going to happen, right?
Gurgaji, we are on mute. Can you all please unmute?
Aparna, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
1 minute.
Aparna, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. So let me start again. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are going to talk today about stress. It's one of those amazing things that always need to be there in life, but that always keeps troubling us. And we will talk about what does it mean for all of us. What is it that we can do? We'll do some tips and tricks, some pointers around what we provide, and then kind of take it from there. But let me first start with introducing myself. My name is Kapil Gupta. I have some team members here, Sampada Sharma, Richa, who are both psychologists by profession, and Shweta, who is part of our outreach team. Let me first start by talking about my mental wellness journey, because I think that will be a good place that will kind of give you all the context. Okay? I'm not going to give you a sob story of how I was under depression and how I had somebody in my family go through something. I am actually very much like each one of you here. I am an engineer by academics. I did my engineering from Delhi College of Engineering. I went to the US, did my master's from North Carolina State University. I worked in IBM corporate headquarters for nearly 8 years, and then I came back to India back in 2007, and I started a digital marketing agency. So back when COVID started, I was a digital marketing agency. My mental wellness journey started one day before the first lockdown. And it started with what was supposed to be a sarcastic, literally a funny, sarcastic Facebook post by a digital entrepreneur. You see all of these people who post funny things? I was one of them. So I posted, simply did a post that says, I hope Modi ji has kept enough money in the budget for suicide prevention and depression. Ha ha. That's it. It was nothing. What it did, it led to a lot of people people coming and talking about, so what's the insight I have with which I put this post? I had nothing. I mean, it was just seemed logical at that point of time. Back then, I did a whole bunch of research for the next year and a half or so, till almost the middle of 2021. I did a lot of research around what was going on in the mental wellness universe. And I realized everybody that was working in mental wellness was creating a suboptimal solution. And that's where we started as Solh Wellness. I will talk more about Solh Wellness as we get in. So, one important thing to remember, as I said, stress is something that we all need in our life, but it is something that keeps troubling us all as well. One extremely important thing about mental health is it's always too late. Always late. But it's never too late. So you have not done much about it till today, you are late. But you are not too late. You can start today, worry about your mental health, start looking at what is it that you can do, and it will help you in 3 different quadrants of your life. Number 1, from a self perspective, it will give you the 2 things that you need in your life. Okay, if you really think about it, we don't need money, we don't need career, we don't need good food, we don't need good house, we don't need big cars. Really, if you bottle everything down, I'm not suggesting we don't need them. We need all of them, but as a combination of 2 things that we need in life: happiness and peace of mind. Really, bottle everything down, and that's what you are talking about. Happiness, peace of mind. That's it. And what you are always trying to do is to reduce sadness, loneliness, and stress. That's it. I mean, you can pretty much bundle your life into this one aspect. There are 2 things that you want to grow. And that's where we will start looking at how do you make it happen? How do you reduce or at least create capabilities for you? Okay? And those capabilities come in the form of resilience, comes in the form of coping mechanism. We'll talk more about that when we get there. I won't bore you with statistics. We all know. We are in corporate world. We all understand what is the meaning of mental wellness. We all understand the kind of challenges each one of us face today. Okay? But just to give you some perspective, 1 in every 8 adults and 1 in every 6 kids have mental health disorders. So when we look at anything from a healthcare perspective, we say there is disease, there is disorder, there is distress, and then there are people who may be normal. In case of mental health, there are very few people who are here in the normal state. There is a lot of people that are in the distress stage. But 1 in every 8 are in the disease/disorder stage. Okay, since we are all working in a corporate, let me put numbers to it. $1 trillion loss in $1 trillion. Okay, we are on track or trying to become a $5 trillion economy, and we are talking about $1 trillion loss annually because of purely anxiety and depression. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, again, there is so much research that keeps happening these days. Everybody that you would talk to is perhaps a self-help expert, mindfulness coach, an advisor. There is so much of data that is put together. But even if you keep all the data aside, all that it points to is it's significant. And let's look at each one of us. What sort of challenges do we face? Personal challenges, professional challenges, career-oriented challenges, financial challenges, family challenges, relationship challenges, boss challenges, and those who are bosses, employee challenges. So we all have our lives, right? We all keep struggling with things that are beyond our control. Okay? What I can tell you is I can absolutely not help with things that are beyond your control. Okay? I am not a transformation agent that can change organizational culture as such. I am here to talk to you about individually what is it that you all can do to have your own resilience go up. Of course, when you take your resilience up collectively, That's going to have a huge impact on the organization and its culture and its philosophy and its approach. But we are today going to more focus on each one of you individually. What is it that you can do in the broader aspect of mental health? So let me start by asking, have you ever worked on your mental health? How many people here have ever worked on your mental health? One. Nobody else? It's a corporate, so it's a little difficult question to answer, to actually acknowledge I have worked on my mental health. So let me break it down. Working on your mental health essentially means seeking peace and happiness. Now tell me, how many people have worked on their mental health? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? 7 people out of nearly 25 people here say they have worked on their mental health. Let me give you statistics around it. I'm an engineer, so I will keep throwing numbers. And I have done a lot of research kind of looking at this. I've asked this question, have you ever worked on your mental health, to at least 25,000 people so far. Okay? A large chunk of them say absolutely nothing. Never needed to, never had to, don't bother me with it. A small percentage of them say, I've done something. Okay? So 40-45% tell me they have done nothing. Nearly 45-50% people say, I've done something. Okay? Some will say I do yoga, some will say I do dance, some will say I do partying, some even do weed, some even do some other sort of addiction. Some would come and tell me they go for a run, some do gym, some whatever, some even work. Difficult to imagine, but some even work. Jokes apart. And then there is a very small percentage of people that would say they have actually been to a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Now, whatever you do in mental health, you are not going to be significantly able to increase people that would go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist. Because most people are in this distress phase. They would only consider something when they not even get to a disorder, when they almost get to a disease state. But the question is, what do you do when you are in this distress phase? That's where most of us are. That's where, by the way, help is the most beneficial. We all don't realize it. We think help is always more beneficial when you are in the disease phase or when you are in the disorder phase. It's actually distress. It's actually early intervention. It's actually wearing a mask and keeping social distancing. I'm very much against masks and social distancing, but just making the point. It's really wearing the mask, keeping social distancing, managing better hygiene and everything to prevent yourself from COVID versus going to the hospital and getting an oxygen cylinder. That's kind of what we are talking about. Now, I understand mental health. How many of you worry or do something about your emotional health? Many of us, in different forms. It's important, right? It's part of our everyday activity, everyday life, and everyday what we do. And how about stress? Are there people here that do anything for their stress? What do you do? Listening to music, go to the gym. That's, I guess, that one activity most people do, right? You may not necessarily call it working on your mental health or call it working on your stress, but most of us do that in some way, shape or form. What else? Talk to your partner, okay? Or look for a partner. What else? Anyone else does anything that's part of what they kind of do for their stress? So let me actually start with this statement. The stress of the stress is always more than the stress itself. Let's absorb it for a little bit. The stress of the stress is always more than the stress itself. When are you more stressed? At 2 in the afternoon in the office or at 11 in the night at home? 11 in the night at home, right? That's when we are lonely, that's when we don't have anybody to talk to, that's when we are all struggling. That's when the stress hits us the most. that's when we all start having those ugly thoughts about our life. That's when there is existential crisis that comes in. That's when the financial and career insecurity comes in. That's when we get into all sorts of trouble. That's when we start thinking about how thin or fat, short or tall, good or bad, whatever is going on in our life. That's when it hits more. So I call this the stress of the stress is always more than the stress itself. Now, a lot of us, and when I started off, this was one of the first things that I looked at. But it's always been around. Right? Nothing really has changed. Our parents had stress growing up. Our grandparents had stress. Their parents, till you go to the caveman, everybody had stress. So what has fundamentally changed? And when I looked at it, this is what I came up with. What I call as the 4 C's of mental health worsened by the pandemic. Okay, it's not about the pandemic really, but things that have changed in our life because of what happened. Number 1, contagion. Fear of infectious diseases. How many of us get worried when there are 16 people that die in Jammu because of some virus? Well, we don't even know if it's a virus, we just know it's something unknown. How many of us worry when there is talk about HPMV or there is talk about Zika or there is talk about something else? We used to not even bother with it till a few years back. But contagion, it has become part of our life. Number 2, conflict. And conflict, I'm not just talking about the Israel-Gaza war that just got, at least in a ceasefire situation yesterday, or the Ukraine war, or what's going on in Sudan, or what may happen with China, Taiwan. I'm actually talking about conflict that we all struggle with every day. Number 3, conformity. Our inherent need to conform to social rules. Our inherent need to live up to people's expectations. Do things that we frankly don't want to. Last but not the least, climate change. And I'm not just talking about an existential challenge. Climate change is going to end life for us. Yeah, many people amongst us do suffer with that problem. But I am also talking about climate change as a driver of mental health issues. This bad air in Delhi, you may not think that it is ever going to, humanity is going to end with it. But the kind of diseases, the kind of challenges, the kind of bad moods, the kind of higher level of stress that it drives for all of us. And of course, we know about, long working hours, stressful work environment, high expectations, lack of boundaries, lack of support, and you can keep piling everybody's own personal issues on top of this. Stress really, at a fundamental level, governs a lot of our lives. Now, let's do an exercise. Okay? Simple. How many of you are familiar with box breathing? Right. So, very simple. I would say inhale. You inhale, you hold your breath, and then you exhale. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Just as simple as that. Okay? So I would start and we will do it thrice. The only thing I want is for all of you to close your eyes while we do that. Can we just do that? Just very basic, nothing fancy. We'll just hold our breath, breathe in, hold, and breathe out. As simple as that. Okay? So everyone, please close your eyes. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Second time, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Third time, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in, bit longer, hold, Breathe out. And slowly open your eyes. We are all back? Let me ask a question. For these 20 seconds, and they were 20 seconds, 20, maybe 30 seconds, that we did this, how many of us forgot all about the project that you have to tend to when you get out of here? How many of us were just blank? Just blank. No stress, nothing. We didn't even realize where we are, what's going on, the upstairs computer and the deadlines. We were just blank. That's as easy as it can be to take care of your mental health. So I wanted to start with this to say, it's not difficult. It's not rocket science. I'm not going to start you on a supplement today. Okay? I'm not going to give you something that's, unheard of anywhere. I'll just give you an approach and a philosophy of what is it that you can do to take care of your mental health, to take care of your stress, and everything relates to this. Next slide. Now, I was saying we all have stress in our life, right? That's the beginning point of every one of us. Now, since we are engineers, I thought this will be an interesting, we all know this is a bell curve, right? What you see in green back there is what we call as too little stress. When people have almost nothing to do in their life, or they have an extremely laid back approach to life, they are in there. The challenge is you can't survive in a competitive environment when you are there. But that's not why I say it like that. You are not really doing what you can do when you are in that state. Then the yellow area is where we say people are at their best. They are happy, they are motivated, they are moving, and they have reasons to do stuff. The problem is you do that for a certain duration of time, and you get into this break point, this tipping point that we call as fatigue. And then it goes towards exhaustion, and then from exhaustion, of course, it starts to go down. What we will do after this, towards the end of this, is we will give you an AI capability for each one of you to specifically check it for yourself and see what your stress levels right now is. It will give you an interesting viewpoint into what's going on in your life. But the important aspect of this chart is stress is not necessarily bad. There is something that is called as eustress, which is where people are most optimal, people are at the best, and people are most productive and most happy, by the way. That's where you want to be, but you need to ensure that instead of getting into fatigue, every once in a while you take a step back and then you come back again. You take a step back and then you come back again. And of course, there are three kinds of stress. Acute stress, which is something happening right now and it's a problem. Chronic stress. Episodic acute stress. Usually, most people have bigger problems when the stress is chronic and when the stress is episodic acute. And acute stress, is a stressful situation. You got into road rage and somebody banged your car, or you got into an accident, something else happened, somebody got injured badly, something, right? That's one. But when it starts becoming chronic, which means it stays with you for a long period of time, or when it starts becoming episodic acute, which means it keeps coming back, is when people have larger problems. Now, let's also look at one more aspect before I get to the next slide. While we'll get into that. How many of you are aware of this process of fight or flight? So the way everything is structured, I'm not just talking humanity, I'm talking life. The way life is structured is that we have a natural, okay, natural response to every stressful situation that comes our way. And the natural response for everyone is either to fight or to flight. Okay? So you need to either fight or flight. Go back to the caveman. Okay? What would fight or flight mean? What would stress mean? I have a giant beast of a animal coming towards me, and I need to either fight or flight. Right? That's how it would be. Whether it is fight or flight, what would be needed? If you have to fight or flight, right? Not if you have to type on your screen, but if you have to fight or flight, what would be needed?
Courage.
Courage, yeah. What else?
The ability to think.
Ability to think. What else? See, this is what the current state of how we live has made us. One thing that fight or flight would need is extra amount of energy. Either you are fighting, you need energy to fight, or you are flighting, you need extra energy to flight. So, the natural response of any living organism, I'm not just talking humans, in any stressful situation is fight or flight, which means extra energy is needed. How do you get extra energy? Your body will give you more sugar. Right? Because that would eventually burn and give you more energy. So it would make more of it available to you. Okay? It will generate more adrenaline because that will, give you that power. Most of our health issues starts with this. We get into a stressful situation, body says flight or fight, and you say no, I need to die. Body has this extra sugar, this extra energy, this extra adrenaline, this extra power that is generated, and we don't use it. So what happens to this? It causes significant health issues. This is why you see so many, heart attacks. This is why you see so much of diabetes. This is why you see so much of blood pressure problems. This is why you see everything. It is not, trust me, it is not really because you sit on your chair all day. There is a different problem because of sitting on your chair all day. All of these happen because you get into stressful situations, body generates capabilities that you don't use, and then the body has to decompose them all. In many cases, body can't decompose them, so here starts the problem. So let's now start with what I call as the 10 commandments for managing stress. Well, before I get there, this is what usually happens to people. They get sad and lonely, then over a period of time they become dejected with it. Then over a period of time it starts to get reinforced. Then they get into hopelessness and then into clinical depression. The challenge, the problem, the real meat in mental wellness is, can you look at people while they are between sad and lonely and getting it reinforced before they enter into hopelessness and give them something? Once you enter into hopelessness, you are pretty certainly going to go into clinical depression. And once you enter into clinical depression, trust me, no matter who comes to you, no matter which mindfulness coach, no matter whatever happens, you will need a combination of therapy and medication. But before that, which is the state that most of us are in, right? Clinical depression is disease. Hopelessness is disorder, towards on the verge of disorder. Before that, you are all able to recover, all able to seek support. Number one, stay organized, which essentially not only means have your drawers set correct, have your clothes hung well, have your pens and your pencils and your computers and everything neatly organized, it means stay organized with your work. Set realistic, we're starting slow, we'll move up as we move up. Set realistic goals for yourself. Okay. One of the aspects that I always talk to people about, there is a lot that has happened over the last few weeks or few months, with Narayan Murthy coming up, with Bhavik coming up, with somebody else, talking about work-life balance. And we all hate that, right? 90 hours a week? Are you really joking? How is it humanly possible? And why would I do that? Now, I have an interesting take on this. And that's what I mean related to your realistic goals. See, I always tell people that work for me, okay, you need to decide in your life how career-oriented or financially independent are you. Think about this. Career-oriented, people that want to grow the fastest and reach the top. Financially independent, people that want to earn to enjoy their life. They don't think career or working or anything as a means for anything other than simply making money. It's a great place to be in, I have nothing against that. And career oriented is a great place to be in, I have nothing against that. But people need to decide their own requirements and set realistic goals for themselves. So I'm not suggesting any of you do this, but for example, I have this friend who works in PwC Germany. Okay, one of the top places to work. A few years back, I just met him very recently. A few years back, he went to his management and he said, listen guys, mera ho gaya. I am super happy with where I am. Okay, for the next 15 years that I will work, all I want is exactly the same role. I don't want any promotion or anything else in my life. And an inflation adjusted salary. I can't do with same salary because that will mean reduced lifestyle. An inflation adjusted salary and I'm happy. I don't want to move out of Berlin. I'm supremely well set here. I don't want to change my job. This life works really well for me. But then I don't want to get higher appraisals. Give me just an inflation adjusted salary. I am telling you, whoever his manager in PwC would be, is going to be probably the happiest person in the world. Saying, okay, one less thing to worry about. And this guy has made a realistic goal for themselves. Again, I'm just putting it across to give you a sample of how you can decide what are the realistic goals for you. And your entire lifestyle, your entire work approach and everything can be managed according to that. Next. The power of breaks. I mean, a lot of us, and I am not talking about power of breaks, leave office and go to Himalayas for a few days. Okay, I have this approach and this philosophy of, people keep talking about do what you love, right? Great approach. However, the reality of life is, whenever you will do what you love, there is a lot of unlove that will come along with it. Part of the balance, right? You want to eat good food, you need to cook it. You want to do, something else, you need to accept other stuff that comes with it. You want to come to office, you need to be in whatever traffic. It was a 30-minute traffic jam while I was coming from Delhi today at the near the airport. I'm sure some of you face it regular basis. Right? So whenever you do what you love, there are other problems that comes with it. What I say is, while you do that, always do what you love. Along with that, create another philosophy for yourself called as love what you do. And over there, it is important to keep taking breaks, not to go out somewhere and not to, escape, but really just putting in those elements of what would make you happier. And that's where love what you do starts to get integrated really well. Work-life balance. Everybody worries about it. How many people have good work-life balance in their lives? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a tough crowd. I haven't seen 50% of people in a room saying we have work-life balance. Management must be doing something fabulous. But anyway, my take on work-life balance is the problem in work-life balance at this point of time is not really your work entering your personal life. It's a problem, right? So I'm not suggesting it's not a problem. We work global hours, we have calls in the night, we have something early in the morning, we have deadlines and pressures and this, that and the other. That's all real. But that's not the full problem. Your work entering your personal life is a problem. But for me, the more I look at it, the more I think about it, the bigger problem for everyone is your personal life entering your workspace. Think about it. How many times during the day do you check something about your personal life? Whether it's a WhatsApp message, whether it's connecting with a friend, whether it is doing something for your home or whatever else. And let me say, every time you do that, there is a distraction which brings with it a certain amount of stress that gets added into your work life. So yeah, work life getting into your personal life is a problem. But what I suggest is you also very significantly look at your personal life entering into your work life. For me, in all the conversations, in all the research, in everything that I have looked at, that's probably a bigger cause of worry for all of us. Our partner messaging us about, the shower that broke down, or something else that's not working, or a bill that needs to be paid, or a friend that wants us to come out tonight and you have to negotiate whether you can or not, and everything else. So work-life balance, absolutely work going into your personal life is a problem, but your personal life coming into your work is a bigger problem. If you start decoupling them a little more, I think all of us would be a much happier lot. But don't just start with talking about work in your personal life. Also look at the other side. In a lot of cases, some of our work pressures would probably go away if we also look at the other side. Next. Building resilience. And extremely, I jokingly, not really an Indian political one, but I jokingly put an interesting Facebook post recently saying Mr. Donald Trump is going to increase resilience in US in tremendous amount, because he will keep everybody anxious all the time. You will get so used to being anxious that you may actually end up having better resilience. Jokingly, but the point is, you all need to think about how will you improve your resilience. And your resilience can either be improved by taking care of or incorporating elements into your life that gives you, again, peace and happiness. That's it, right? I don't want to look at any third thing, but peace and happiness. That's the basic motto everywhere. And you need to look at what sort of activities, what sort of stuff, what sort of food, what sort of partnerships, what sort of events, what sort of conversations, what is it that gives you resilience in your life, and really hone on them. Okay, improve on them. That's what will give you, capability to handle your stress. And then the next one is probably just as important. See, we all have coping mechanisms, right? I drive, so I many years back gave up keeping a driver for myself. I'm for multiple different reasons that I won't get into, but I said I will drive my own car. I work in Daryaganj, Delhi. How many of you have been to Daryaganj, Delhi? So 50% people here have been to Daryaganj, Delhi. So you all know what sort of traffic is there. Okay. I have a coping mechanism that says I will have a running commentary going on while I am driving. People hate it. Now, my daughter will, specifically on Tuesday evenings, she will refuse to sit in the car. She is a co-founder with me in the mental wellness journey. She refuses to go back home with me on Tuesday evenings because there is going to be, the Hanuman temple crowd, and I will be running, extremely loud, sometimes abusive commentary along with that. However, I will never roll my window down, and I will never get into a road rage kind of a condition. But there is this running commentary that will go on. For me, not such a great example, but for me, that's a coping mechanism that works really well for me. It keeps me sane on daily roads. My current situation is, if I stop doing that, I will probably get into road rage somewhere. I mean, try driving in Daryaganj. I'll probably end up doing that. What I mean to say, what I mean to suggest to everybody here is very, very consciously start looking at what are your coping mechanisms. We all have coping mechanisms. It's not like, it doesn't exist for one person. We all have our coping mechanism. However, most of our coping mechanisms are subconscious versus conscious, covert versus overt. I'm saying identify your coping mechanism, what works in your life, and then start looking at how can you integrate, how can you manage better, and how will you bring them for you in stressful situations, in situations that are beyond your control, in things that you would rather avoid but still need to do. Extremely important part of doing this is cultivating respect and empathy in the workplace. And this is not an altruistic statement at all. I am not asking you to do this for somebody else. I am asking you to do this because it helps you. Be super selfish in thinking of this one. Cultivating respect and empathy in the workplace. Because if you are able to cultivate respect and empathy in the workplace, you would be able to offer emotional support to people, get emotional support also. Be a listening ear and get a listening ear. Be a positive influence and get positive influence. You'll be able to collaborate, share workload, probably stand against harassment. And please note, harassment at workplaces is not a one-way street. Harassment in workplaces happens across multiple different aspects, across multiple different differentiations amongst people. So the fact that you would be able to stand against harassment, and the fact that you would be able to embrace differences and diversity. So cultivate this respect, cultivate this empathy in the workplace for this. Next, mental wellness for me starts at the very basics. And what I mean by very basics is what you eat, how well are you hydrated. Do you know a lot of mental pressure starts because most of us do not drink enough water? I mean, it's like literally as easy as that. The fact that some of us do not even drink half a liter of water a day. There are people. I'm sure there is somebody, not just one, many people in this room, specifically in winters, whose intake of water is less than half a liter a day. Do you know a lot of mental pressures, stresses and all comes from there? So what you eat, what you drink, how well you sleep. Now I know sometimes there are work pressures or outside work calls and other things that keeps you awake, but how you sleep. And there is the problem with how you sleep is, and actually the problem with most of mental health related aspects, there is no right answer. There is no right answer. I sleep on an average 4 to 4.5 hours a day. Okay? I'm usually never tired. I'm usually never kind of down in life. It works for me. Many of you would need 8 hours of solid sleep. See, the good thing about me is I have REM sleep. You put me to bed and I'm gone. And my body cycle is such that 4.5 hours works. But you figure out how much do you need to sleep. Fourth, extremely important, and I am not suggesting pranayam. I am not suggesting you to get up in the morning and spend 15 minutes doing anything. I'm saying breathing exercises. The starting point of those breathing exercises would be the box breathing that we just did. As simple as that. The box breathing that we just did is the starting point of it. We don't need to sit in a yoga posture, keep our hands this way and do. I'm not suggesting any of that. People that have the time to do that, please, by all means, it would help. People that think they don't have the time to do that, simply be in the metro and do breathe in, breathe out. What's so wrong with that? Be in the elevator and do breathe in, breathe out. Elevator usually, if you go to third floor, it takes 20 seconds. That's all you require. That's all, literally all you require. And then, of course, there are numerous different cognitive and other related capabilities that you can do. Number 5, exercise. I'm not talking about, get into bodybuilding and, go into 1 hour of gym with weightlifts every day. I am talking about movements that keeps you active. Simply. And a lot of mental health is really as simple as these 5. What you eat, how you hydrate yourself, do you exercise, do you breathe correctly, and do you sleep well? As simple as that. Okay? But very consciously start looking at these and it will provide a lot of value to you. Next. Now, how many of you know what mindfulness is? Nobody? How many of you have heard of mindfulness? Nobody has? Perfect. So I can start directly to the other aspect. So jokes apart, mindfulness is basically living in the present. Okay, knowing this is the all important. Okay, most of us have stresses about our future, and most of us have information about our past. Mindfulness is basically stand in the moment. For the life of me, I have never been able to understand mindfulness. No offense to people that practice mindfulness. I many years back came up with this theory that I call as the 16-hour theory. For me, it was really something that was very powerful and transformational, at least for me. And here it goes. And think about it as I'm speaking. It's a thought experiment for everyone. What if I say more than 16 hours a day, every day, in every action that you do in your life, in every decision that you make in your life, all that you are doing is optimizing your mental health. Let me repeat it again so we all can grasp and think about this. More than 16 hours a day, every day, in all actions that we do in our life, and in all decisions that we do in our life, we are only worried about or working on optimizing our mental health. Interesting, right? Think about it. When you decide to do something that you hate, how can you be looking at optimizing your mental health? But now step back and think. When you decided to do something that you hated, you did it for a specific reason. Maybe it was purely because you did not want to listen to your mom crib about it for the next 2 days. Okay. Mom or partner or kid or whoever else in your life has control over you. But you did it because of something. I'm saying, let's start taking a step back and live in a world where we say, everything that we do in our life is simply meant to optimize our mental health. That's how we are created as life. That's how we are created as humans. Sometimes in different crowds, I won't ask you to answer this question here. I ask this question. What if I tell you I'm God and I have the capability to grant you one of 2 lives? A life where you have 2 hands, 2 legs, and you are going to be unhappy every day for the rest of your life. Two hands, two legs, and unhappy for every day in the rest of your life. And the second option is you have one hand, one leg, and you will be happy every day for the rest of your life. Which would you choose? I wouldn't ask you this question, but think about this. For me, I would always say number 2. One hand, one leg, and happy for the rest of my life. And that's where I start off with mental health is perhaps the only thing in the world that is worth giving an arm and a leg for. Now, let me talk about the other aspect. So we talked about mental health, we talked about stress, what it means, what are the kind of things that you can do. What we have done is we have created technology for mental health. So I was talking about disease, disorder, distress, and everybody else. What we have done, when I started my mental health work, okay, one of the things that I realized is everybody wants to work with people who have disorder or people who have disease. Because that's where the money is, right? They are the people that are going to go into a wellness center, meet a psychiatrist, meet a psychologist, do something. What about all of us? Do you want us to, progress and go towards disorder and disease before you will look at us? How about you provide us some capability right now? And that's we try to do with Solh. We said, people, if they are able to get the right kind of support in their life, if they are able to be empowered by the ability to optimize, by the ability to get support whenever they want in their mental health, they will perhaps be a lot lesser of disorder and much lesser of disease as well. Okay. So provide people support when they are in the ground state or when they are in the distress state. Do not let it get to disorder. This is what when I was showing you the cycle of depression, I was saying if while it is getting reinforced before they enter into hopelessness, which is what I call as disorder, if you take them out, there is a lot that you can do. You can probably have an extremely large amount of people that are more happy and that are more satisfied and that are more peaceful in their lives. From an organizational perspective, you can have a lot more people that would be a lot more driven, that would be a lot better, that would be way more productive, way more efficient, and way more participative in the organization. So it's not a one-way street, whether it helps the employees or whether it helps the employer or whether it helps the organization. It helps everybody. Okay? This is one important aspect of what we do. We provide you capabilities to be able to measure your mental health. Let me just demonstrate how it works. We have this platform called as Solh Wellness. There is a feature here which is called as Streffy. I click on it and it says give access to my camera and stuff like that. I say ready, go, and I put my face in front of it. I press start. And it takes what I call as a stress selfie video, hence the word Streffy. Okay? It calculates what my face says my stress level is. And then it asks me, how stressed am I feeling right now? So, an actual or objective stress which comes through your face, a perceptive stress that comes through asking you, let's say I say I'm at level 6 right now. And it says, my stress level right now, my actual objective stress level right now is 5. I said my stress level, perceptive stress level is 6. And then it also gives me an option of doing an assessment. Assessment means what does my life say about my stress? So, what does your face say? What do you say? And what does your life say? A combination of these can give you extreme amount of insights and what you should do more for stress in your life. So for example, if your perceived stress is much higher than your measured stress, which means you think your stress is very high, your life doesn't think your stress is very high. Maybe you overthink. Let's reverse the scale. Your life says your stress is very high, you say your stress is very low. Maybe you have higher resilience. and then you can keep going on and on with it with multiple different options. So, as I was just demonstrating. Next. Then we have this, what we call as the Reach framework. Reach framework is this entire platform that I showed you called as Solh Wellness. Okay. We help you get resilient. We help you do evaluation, which is the Steffi tool. We give you capabilities to act. And when I say capabilities to act, we give you option to write journals. We give you option to do self-assessments. We give you support groups to participate in. We give you capabilities to set up your goals. We give you a lot of best practices. From meditation to yoga to breathing exercise and everything else. We give you a whole bunch of toolkits. Around stress, actually around stress and anxiety, we have multiple toolkits. One toolkit for the employees, one toolkit for the managers, one toolkit for HR. So we provide different kinds of toolkits and everything. We also do a lot of stuff around people with special abilities. So there is something around autism, there is something around ADHD, but those capabilities are also there. So we give you a whole bunch of tools, capabilities, programs, guides, and everything. Next. One extremely important part that everybody should know before I get into this. When we do this, when we provide you with the Solh Wellness platform, anything that you would do, number one, is always and always anonymous. If you don't trust, then the second option is, when you use the platform, there is an option to not do it as yourself, do it anonymously. So we provide you both options, but we don't. We will not, and it's a core philosophy in how we have created the platform. We will never share what you do with anyone. Even if your organization is the one that is providing you the platform, they're not going to get access to what you do. And we don't provide them access to what you do, because the moment I start providing them access to what you do, all of you will stop using the platform. It wouldn't make sense. Second, we provide you the capability or the option to have it available, use the platform anonymously, such that it is not even nomenclature to you. One other thing that we do, which might be extremely important for many of you, or specifically the ones that have kids and families, de-addiction. Now, I am not talking about somebody who has been told by doctor you have a fatty liver and you probably are in a troubled state, or you have an extreme addiction to something. I am talking about de-addiction as the capability to look at your substance use addiction or your behavior addiction. Substance use addiction would mean alcohol and tobacco and drugs and opioids and pharma and other things. Behavioral addiction would mean your internet, your gaming, gambling, shopping, eating, or anything else. We have a technology-based self-served program to take care of it. I want to spend 30 seconds talking about it because you would have never heard it before. A platform which is a series, an entire series of videos, audios, PDFs, best practices, guides, intervention steps, activities, check-ins, a buddy program, so you have somebody that is kind of watching out for you, and everything combined together for you to get de-addiction support. Okay? In organizations, it is primarily useful when you think about behavioral addictions, not just for yourself, but more importantly, also for your family. Next. So, that's what we are looking at doing. Our focus as Solh Wellness is making mental health a global priority for all. When people ask me, so who's my competition? I'm running a mental wellness platform. Who's my competition? The usual answer would be, my competition is healthcare companies, my competition is self-help coaches, my competition is mental wellness companies. When I come to corporates and somebody asks me, who is your competition? My competition is Slack. Because I'm in the business of providing your employees with better, more productive capabilities, keeping them more efficient, providing them better happiness and peace of mind in their life. So I'm not necessarily limiting or looking at myself as a healthcare organization. And that's the brilliance, that's the beauty of mental health. It's not necessarily about healthcare. It's more about how you live your life. So with that, I will stop and take questions. One thing that I must also say, for many of you, mental wellness is a tough subject. Specifically in corporates, it's not always common, not always, able for people to talk about it. One of the things that we would do, we have two counselors with us today, two psychologists with us today, Sampada and Richa. After this session, if any one of you wants to sit with a counselor, has something specific that they want to discuss, both for people who are in office as well as for people who are on the phone, if any one of you wants to have that short one-on-one chat, please, by all means, please feel free to do that. I think between Aparna and Carol and Shivani, they will provide you the logistics and how would it work. So with that, let me stop. If anybody on the call or in the room has any questions, I would be more than happy to take them right now. Anyone? Any questions? Any clarifications? I can see everybody is up, so either I was too good or too bad. It is required for a mental wellness conversation. So there are psychologists that would be available and you can do it then. And of course, any one of you interested can come to the Solh Lab and ask your questions there separately as well. Most of the capabilities on the platform are available free of charge. You don't have to do anything other than simply download the platform and take action. Okay, so Aparna.
Hi Kapil, we have a question,
Yeah.
From Hyderabad. So Vinod is asking, what are the best practices for maintaining a balanced mental state during stressful situations? So Kapil, also I wanted to expand a bit on this. You spoke about how empathy and respect are certain behaviors, that will help us, navigate well in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So just like those behaviors, any other behaviors we can adapt.
So these are the 6 specific aspects that we always talk about. Offering and accepting emotional support, being and getting a listening ear, a positive influence. Next. Collaborating and sharing workload. One of the things that I have always found amazing in my organizations that I have created, and I have created 4 organizations to date, so I'm an entrepreneur in that sense. One of the things that I have always found it wonderful is, while you will always be competitive, right, within your workplace, but if you can add to that competition the capability to collaborate and share workload, it does wonders. And don't look at it as 2 people competing, but sometimes, have you guys seen, those wrestling matches and other things where there are more than 2 people? So if it is 3 people or 4 people, 2 or 3 will get together and they will decide who to throw out. Sometimes because that person is the strongest and you want to get rid of it. So sometimes that's what you need to do as a team. Collaborate and share workload, because it's going to eventually provide capability to the organization or provide capability to you as a team. In your performance, in what you were able to accomplish. Be competitive with each other. I can't take that out, right? It's the nature of or the environment that we all work in. But at times, just collaborate and share. Extremely important, harassment. Okay, and I don't want to even call out cases of harassment, because it could very much be an organizational kind of definition. What is considered as harassment in your organization? But everybody need to get together, identify and stand up against them, and probably help the organization develop those capabilities. See, there are very fine lines in how you would define. A lot of people get disassociated with organizations for this one reason of harassment. Last, not the least, embrace differences. I am all for equality. Okay? I am all for equality. I'm not saying one person should do this, one person should do that. However, embrace differences and diversity, sometimes for its capability, for its ability to provide more power to your team. Really, more power to your team. So, Aparna, these are the 6 kind of clear aspects that I would mention. Other than this, every individual, as I said, need to work on 2 things: their resilience, increase their resilience, so their ability to kind of be what they call as neuroplasticity or neuroelasticity. So plasticity meaning ability to mold, elasticity meaning ability to stretch. That's resilience, and your coping mechanisms. If you are able to identify your coping mechanism and hone in on them, it's a supremely powerful tool for everyone. So back to you, Pranav.
I think it was Karen who was reading the questions.
Okay.